Hi, everybody. This is Teresa Aker from Success Diaries with Teresa Aker. I am thrilled today to bring you Emily Holthaus. She is the author of Raising Little Millionaires. It was my pleasure to talk to her, and I wanted to bring her on so that she could share with you how she's helping families and their little ones, making them millionaires. Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So tell us about your book, Emily, and what got you started on this?
Yeah. So I never learned about money growing up, and I really paid for that into my 30s. I went to school, got a bunch of student loan debt, left college without a dollar to my name, and made just about every single mistake that you can make in the book. And after pulling myself out of my own debt and putting myself onto a better path financially, I just knew that I wanted better for my kids, and I didn't want my kids to have to self-teach about personal finance as adults. So I wanted to have a better start, and also my background's in education. I have a master's degree in education, and have really worked with and written curriculum for a long time. And so I thought when I had my own kids, like it would be really easy for me to look at curriculum around personal finance and figure out how to use it at home because of that skill set. And then I
Sure.
had kids and I barely even had time to shower and realized that even with that background, I wasn't able to do it. And so, most people probably couldn't either. And so, actually, when I wrote the book, I wrote it for myself, and just to try to think about how I could break down teaching positive money habits and mindsets to kids. And, really for my own kids. And then just as time went on and I kept talking to people about it, just realized that the personal finance community has a lot of great information, but a lot of the stuff about teaching kids about money is things like dollar for dollar matching their first car, open a business and employ them in your business, start a retirement account, and just all things that one require money. Two, we're better for older kids, and three, it wasn't what I was looking for. My concern wasn't that my kids left my house with a big pot of money. That's great too, but my concern was that I wanted my kids to understand money and to have a really positive set of habits and mindsets around money. So even if they left my house without a dollar to their name, they could go into their, college and early career life being really having a really strong positive orientation to money and knowing what to do with their dollars so they could set themselves up for success. So that's what makes us a little bit different than a lot of people talking about teaching kids money. Is we're not accountants. We're not going to tell you the best account structure to start to give your kid $1 million down the road. We are really laser focused on teaching kids money habits, money discipline, and helping kids feel empowered about money.
Emily, that's brilliant. What age group do you start with? What age group does that actually start? I guess what's the youngest age to start is my question.
Yeah, our book covers ages 3 to 18. And so
Okay, cool.
a lot of people think like, "Oh my gosh, like teaching 3 to 5-year-olds about money, like what is that? What can they understand?" And what matters the most is that yes, 3-year-olds can understand money as a basic concept. It's
Right,
just about making sure that you're teaching your kids age appropriate concepts, and then over time, right, you're letting them have increasing independence with those concepts and teaching them a little bit more. And so our
right.
book breaks the content down into age bands. So, what do you talk to a 3 to 5-year-old about? What do you talk to a 6 to 8-year-old about? And goes up from there all the way through 18. And because I'm a busy parent myself, I know that we don't have a lot of time for planning, like things that require a lot of money or planning. And so, all of the activities in the book, all the activities that we share on our Instagram and across our social media are all things that are optimized for busy parents,
Yeah.
like so it's, 3 to 18 is really a good age range.
Perfect. And Emily, it's brilliant when I said that earlier, because when I grew up, same thing, and I'm older than you, I'm sure. When we grew up, we absolutely did not get taught all of this. And I always wondered in the schools why we don't have that as a curriculum.
Mhm.
And people like you coming out and saying, hey, I've got the background. I can help parents and help them teach their children. I think the best thing I ever learned was we got an allowance.
Mhm.
you did your chores, you did allowance. My first job was a paper route. I'll bring it back to me just so I can just give you, I think, what the most norm was for people. I
Mhm.
got a paper route. I did babysitting. I worked in Switch LA as a restaurant. I
Mhm.
worked as a waitress in high school and then went off to, college, and we all put our money into education and did what we had to do. But then when I look back now, I think I had more money then than I do now, and I could have done so much more with it. So that would have been very beneficial, Emily. And I don't think my parents understood that it was a good thing. They didn't talk about money. So
Mhm.
do parents talk about money today? There's a thought.
Yeah, and I always try to caveat this too, like, whenever I talk about my backstory a little bit is, I was very lucky and privileged. I had, very wonderful, involved parents,
Mhm.
but they just didn't know a lot about money themselves. They had
Yeah,
their own kind of journey with personal finance and, the financial struggles that they had. Um, and to your point, I think just back, decades ago, this
yeah.
wasn't talked about quite as much. I do think it's people are starting to really think a lot more about personal finance
Oh,
in
that's
their
good.
own lives. It's starting to be shared a lot more widely about. So I think it's kind of becoming a lot more top of mind for people. But honestly, one of the biggest barriers that we see when people are thinking about talking to their kids about money is people say, "Well, I need this for me. Like, I don't even really understand personal finance. Like, how can I talk to my kids about this?"
Good.
And so I think that's one important thing to remember is, really number one, you don't have to be an expert at money or a financial genius. You just need to know a little bit more about how money works than your kids do. And then second, you're already going to be teaching your kids about money in some way, right? You may not be sitting down and like talking to them about like what's the right fund or stock to pick or whatever, and like teaching them how to optimize. But I guarantee you, all parents are going to think about, do I have an allowance? And if so, how do I manage that? Like, do I get my kids a piggy bank? And if so, is there a way to do piggy banks better? And
That's
things of that nature. And as the your child gets older and starts to maybe have their own earned income, how do I talk to my kids about what they do with that money that's coming in now? How to learn the basics of budgeting and all of that. And so we really guide parents through that. So I always say, just like, number one, keep in mind, you don't have to know a ton about money. It is okay to learn alongside your kid. And two, you are already going to be teaching them about money, whether you mean to or not. And so, you might as well learn some strategies to help do that really effectively.
Emily, that's great. I was thinking as you were talking there as people grow, some children go with their parents, they do grocery shopping
Mhm,
and they get all these groceries and they go through the till. And I'm just
mhm.
thinking when they're young, it would be interesting if more parents kind of gave them an idea of this is how much it costs. We had to work this much to get that money.
Mhm.
So if you spend all the money on toys, we wouldn't be able to do this. I know that sounded fundamental, but is that basically an idea that might resonate with the young people and the parents?
Yeah, definitely. So much of the habits and mindsets your kids are building about money is really just them watching you, right? And so,
Right.
one of the most powerful things that we can do is just to kind of talk out loud and break it down for kids, just the same way that you did. And then plans and use some simple strategies that can really help you incorporate more money talks kind of into your day. So, I'll give you an example
Sure.
of how we teach budgeting or introduce budgeting to kids, starting as young as 3 and then going all the way through 18. So, between 3 to 5, right, your kids are really going to be able to understand just a couple of simple things. One, right, to your point, they can understand that we exchange money for things. I go to the store, I give them money, I get the toy or I get the food or whatever that may be. They can understand the difference between needs and wants. They can understand that you are going to work every day to earn money. Maybe that's why they're going to daycare or going to school. And so you can talk to them about that. So some of those kind of emergent concepts.
Yeah.
But when kids start getting money from birthdays, holidays, allowances, if you start that a little bit later, when money first comes in between the ages of 3 to 8, versus using a piggy bank, we recommend starting with something called the 4 jar method. And so I still use a piggy bank for around that 3 to 5 age range, but really at 5 to 6 is kind of the sweet spot, where you can now start, instead of kids just dropping money into a piggy bank and it just sitting in there. We encourage parents to have kids divide that money amongst 4 jars. So those 4 jars are spending, saving, investing, and sharing. Um,
Funding, saving, investing, and
and
sharing.
sharing,
Got
yes.
it.
And by sharing, we mean charitable giving, but we call it sharing because kids hear that term all the time and really understand what that means. So you can share your money the same way you can share a toy. And we encourage parents to teach their kids to divide those up in specific proportions. So you can do any proportion you want as long as it just stays the same. But we recommend having them put 50% of their money in the spending jar, 25% in saving, 15% in investing, and 10% in sharing. So if your kid has $10, we would divide that money up, $5 into the spending, 250 into saving, $1.50 into investing, and $1 into sharing. And the mindset or habit that you're teaching your kids is that when money comes in, we first divide it up amongst our goals and then we spend from our spending bucket. That is early budgeting, right, for
Okay, good.
kids. But it's done in a way where kids can physically see the money, they can physically understand how they're dividing things up. And to be honest, right, most of us, this is how I got into debt, right, as an adult, is money came in and I spent it first and then I saved what was left over, right? And so we're just shifting that and teaching that to kids very young and making the habit. My money comes in, it goes into my different buckets. When I want a new toy or I want a new thing, I go to my spending jar and that's the money that I have to spend. As kids get older in that 9 to 12 year age range,
Yeah.
you can move from the physical jars to a very simple paper based budget. Or there's a few early budgeting apps you can use with kids
Okay.
and have them because they can start to understand things a little more abstractly and they're emerging or they're understanding more kind of in basic math concepts. And so have them move to that simple paper app based budget one more thing. And on that simple paper app based budget, you can start adding in short term goals. So I'm saving up for a specific toy that I really want, a specific outing or activity that I really want, and start to give some short term goals. Usually they should be able to achieve that goal within 6 months to a year.
Okay.
Um, Even less, 2 to 3 months is also great. Then around 13 to 15, you want to keep your kids on the same paper or app based budgeting system. You don't have to change the system.
Okay.
You're just now going to have kids add in some medium term goals. So now they may start saving for a car. They may start saving to add to their college fund or their spending money or an emergency savings account, things of that nature, but medium term goals that they can start to save toward. And then as you get into that 16 to 18-year age range, where your kids likely have earned income at this point, you're just going to move to a slightly more involved, right, budget spreadsheet or app, or in the same app that you are already using, you can just have them start budgeting for things like transportation and food. So versus just, budgeting toward what they can spend, now they're budgeting toward what they need to spend on, right? Like what gas money do I need?
Yeah.
How much does a transit card cost? All of that. And then you want to start adding in long term goals. So now that they have earned income, most likely they can open a Roth IRA. They can start putting a proportion of their money into that. They can start saving for things like a down payment for a house in the future or adding to their college fund or whatever it is that they decide that their long term goals are. So that's just one example of how, we teach budgeting. And once again, it's not super involved. It's not something that you need to do a lot of planning or lessons or work around. It's just really starting very physical and tactile and just really focusing on teaching kids money comes in, divide it up, and then spend it.
I really think that's a genius system that you have there, and I truly mean that. I was thinking as you were talking, and I was thinking as children are growing up, the amazing thing is they will have the mindset. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what really they do with the money. You're giving them a mindset to say, It's not money flow in, money flow out," because I think everybody at some point has had more month left than the money, right?
Mhm.
So it's teaching them that you have to realize that there is a plan,
Mhm.
and when you make money, there is a purpose for it. And I
Mhm.
think what's brilliant is you're teaching the young people to have the mindset that money should be respected, that there's a place for it, that we earn money, so we should respect that as well. And for future goals, money is necessary. I think there's a lot of people, even our age, that do not know how to save because we've
Mhm.
never ever had to or knew how to do it. But that doesn't mean we're financially set, and there may come a day when we think, "Oh my gosh, I didn't plan for this."
Mhm.
So, it's brilliant that at a young age, you're helping parents, you're helping the children as they grow, and then by the time they hit college, which we all know, they're gonna go to college, they're gonna have to pay their bills, they're gonna have to learn these. They've already got a great base, Emily,
Mhm.
thanks to you.
Yeah.
I
And
think
I
that's
also
amazing.
Yeah, and I also always say the other part of this too is just making, to your point, like making budgeting a habit and also just having that be a positive experience for kids. For so many people, one of the main reasons why they don't budget, it's from a place of fear, right? I don't
Yes.
want to keep an eye on my money because I don't feel empowered to like understand how I can, manage my money successfully. Or sometimes you're like, "Oh, I don't even want to see what I spent
Yeah,
online,
yeah,
last month." And
yeah.
so, really I always say the one of the biggest takeaways we want kids to have around budgeting is that mindset of money comes in, first divide it, then spend from the spending jar. The other big takeaway we want kids to have around budgeting specifically is that budgeting is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing, right? Budgeting it's not about depriving yourself, it's not about restricting yourself. It's about, your budget is your plan to get what you want the most. And so, in order to budget, generally, we just have to have really thought about what matters to us and what we need the most. And then we make a plan to get that thing, right? We can afford anything, we can't afford everything, right? So like what matters to us the most and let's make a plan to get there. And so imagine, right, your child leaving your home, right, heading off into their early career life and they already have been budgeting for 10 to 15 years. They
I think
understand the concept deeply. They do it proactively. They feel positive about that. And they're already in the habit of spending what they can, right? Not saving what's left over. And so, once again, ideally, your kid, as they get a little bit older, has some earned income. Ideally, they have the opportunity to put some of that into a Roth IRA and like really start building their own wealth and like planning for their own retirement. But that's not everyone's situation, your child may need to contribute to your household. That's all fine, right? Like what matters the most is that when they can exit your household, they have some of those, strong mindsets and habits in place. And so budgeting is one example. In the book, we talk about a lot of different stuff on our online community. Our Instagram's our main platform, but we're on Threads,
okay.
TikTok, Facebook, all of that. We cover a lot. We cover everything from taxes to budgeting to
Wow.
just what can kids understand at different ages. And so there's a lot of stuff there, and it's all things that you should be able to fit into your daily life. We just did a series on allowances and how to manage those. So there's a lot to learn about and a lot to engage with.
I so Emily, I have a couple of questions. One, do you agree with allowance?
Yes, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Okay, yes, I do. There's three core approaches to allowances, and honestly, controversial opinion. I don't think it really matters which one you do. I think it just matters that you do one consistently. We will personally be using the hybrid approach, but I can explain that really briefly. So,
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
in managing allowances, I think the first core concept that's most important that we differentiate between is that there is a difference between chores and responsibilities. So, chores we define as things that everyone has to do to contribute to the household, and they are not paid, right? That's just how you contribute to the household, how you keep your own room clean, how you,
Yep.
take on a task that supports the running of the household. It doesn't really matter what tasks those are for your kids. It just matters that you pick one or two and that your child understands what they are and that they are consistently expected to do those things
Yep.
and that they know that those things are unpaid. That's their contribution to the household. Responsibilities, on the other hand, are tasks that your child can do above and beyond their chores, and those we can tie to money. So typically, we see two main approaches to this. The first is that you can develop a system where each task earns a certain amount of money. If you unload the dishwasher, you get $1, right? Or you could just say, if you want to simplify it, here's a list of responsibilities that I could use your help with, right? Or that you can earn money from. If you do five of them, you get $5 extra. Like you can just say, pick any number up to a certain point and then get that money. So that's the first thing. There's chores and then there's responsibilities.
Okay.
From there, there's really kind of three main approaches to managing your child's allowance. The first is the responsibilities based approach. And so your child only earns their allowance through responsibilities. You could cap it. You could say you can earn up to $10 a week, but you have to do, the responsibilities to get to those $10. And if they don't do enough, they don't get $10. If they, do up to $10, they get their $10, whatever that is. But the only way to earn the allowance is to do the responsibilities. The second approach is the opposite. It's the unconditional approach. And that's where your child just earns a base allowance each week. They get $10 a week for their allowance, or whatever that number is that you set. And there's no conditions tied to it. There's no responsibilities. The benefit of that a lot of people see is that it may feel simpler. And either way, your child is getting experience managing money and having a set flow of money coming in like a salary that they're then managing from there. And then the third is the hybrid approach. And that's where you set a base allowance, let's say $5, and your child gets that every week unconditionally, but they can earn on top of that up to a
Oh,
certain amount. So if they want to do responsibilities on top of that, let's say they can get up to $5 more, right, per week based on those responsibilities. Once again, if they only do one responsibility, then they only get a little bit of extra money, but they've got the base of $5 and then they can earn on top of it up to a certain threshold. We will personally be using the hybrid approach in our house. My personal opinion is, it feels simple enough to me. And I think it gives kids an opportunity to manage money, right? That's coming in every single week, but still understand the opportunities to earn more above and beyond that. But once again, it truly doesn't actually matter which one you do. It's just really comes down to your personal preference. What
right.
matters is that your child understands very clearly what does not earn money and what could earn money, how much they can earn, what they need to do, and that just stays consistent or the same for a period of time.
I'm liking the hybrid system
Mhm,
because I'm thinking there's a lot of careers in life down the road that are salary based plus
mhm,
commission. They
mhm,
offer an incentive. There's a lot of bonuses that go with the workplace. And as they're moving along, let's say they go to college, someday they go to college, they have to pay for college, but they
mhm,
still want to have those nice clothes and they want to have all of those things. So what you're teaching them, I think, is as well as spending, you have a base, a bunch of expenses. So you
mhm,
have your base that you have to pay for education, you have to eat, you have to do all of those things. And the bonus is if you make more, now you can afford the extra clothes, the car, all of those things. So I
mhm,
think it's a wonderful way to balance life off for people. And again, I go back to the mindset. I
mhm,
think it's what it I thought while you were talking as well, Emily, it would be good for the parents too. Let's say they never budgeted. Now it's
mhm,
going to really force them to start looking at theirs as well. And I don't mean to say most people, do budget, but let's say you don't, or we've all had months where it kind of got out of hand.
mhm,
They actually can bring it back very simply because again, the whole household is doing it.
mhm.
So you must be very valuable to the parents as well.
Yeah. And I think something else that was really important to us when we were writing this book is really helping meet parents exactly where they're at. And
Yeah.
so, for example, for some people, right, allowances make a lot of sense and you have the extra money, right, to, manage that with your child. And truly, one reason why we are a proponent for allowances is that the only way that kids are going to be able to understand money is to be able to use it. And so that just allows us a consistent way for kids to have money to use. However, right, it's not everyone's situation that we have that extra money to give to that allowance, and so something that was very important for us too, every single activity in the book that we talk about or that we talk about on our social media as well, until kids have earned income, um, you can use or substitute play money in exchange
Good
for real
idea.
money. And
Good idea.
so remember, right, as we were talking about earlier, in the 3 to 5 year age range, one of the things that we're teaching kids is that money is a form of exchange. And so that just means we give someone money, this paper dollar, right? And then they give us something back. And you can do that in your own house too with play money, and
Mhm.
it's still teaching the same concepts and habits. And so if you don't have the extra money to put toward an allowance, maybe your child doesn't have that money to take to the store, but they can exchange that play money for as long as they can exchange it for something of value to them, it serves the same purpose and the same lesson. So if I give my kid 10 play dollars instead of 10 real dollars, then I just need to have thought of something that they can give that play money to me for that, is valuable to them. So maybe they use that play money to buy extra screen time, or an outing, like we get to go on a picnic at the park or go on like a nature walk together because they
Right.
like having that one-on-one time with one of their parents or both of their parents or whatever that may be. Like, your child best.
Yeah.
But they won't have then the hands-on experience of taking that money to a store and like getting a toy. But that's not the only things that hold value to kids. And I think that's also important to remember. And so however you set your system up, whether you're using real money or whether you're using play money, as long as your child can exchange that money for something of value, they are still getting those same lessons and mindsets and habits.
Excellent, Emily. Truly excellent. Now, I know you have a book out,
Mhm.
and where can we get Raising Little Millionaires? Where can we purchase that book from you?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find it is to go to our website, which is raisinglittle millionaires.com.
Okay.
And there's two options there. You can buy direct from us, or if you prefer to read on a Kindle, there's a link to where you can go to Amazon and purchase it for Kindle as well. It is an ebook; it's not a physical book.
Okay.
So we'll either send it to you directly, or you can get it on your Kindle. But the easiest way to follow along with us or even just find that website is to go to our Instagram, Facebook, Instagram threads, or TikTok, or LinkedIn. And you can find a link to our website across any of those platforms. And then the best way to really stay up to date on all of the information too is just to join the community on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or on LinkedIn, because in part this is the purpose of this, venture is to, share the information which you can get from the book. But really, it's also our goal was also to build an online community of parents who are all supporting each other, thinking about the same things, and kind of in community with each other. Because you can learn all those things now and then put the book down and then like never think about them again, and you
Yeah.
won't do them with your kids. But join the community, talk with other like-minded people who are trying to think about the same things. I run all of those accounts. I respond to every single comment. I respond to every single DM directly. And so if you ever have questions about something, drop a comment on and I will answer it personally. So that's the best way to stay connected to kind of this idea and building these habits and mindsets with your kids is just join any of the online communities, and you'll hear about it all the time.
Emily, I'm going to put your bio on here. We're certainly going to have that. So I'll have that ready for everybody. You've been terrific. Would you come back another time to talk to us?
Yeah, anytime, happily. We've got lots more strategies and fun
We
insights to share.
we do, and I have lots more questions for you. And I'm
Good.
sure the audience will have a lot of questions for you. So, everyone, this is Teresa Aker from Success Diaries with Teresa Aker. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you, Emily, for joining us. It was my pleasure, and we do look forward to seeing you again. And I look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.